This week's film is a 1964 Chevrolet dealer training film strip comparing the Chevy versus the Ford and Plymouth. Mid-film advertisements are off for your convenience, and don't forget to subscribe for more classic car films and info.
Everything's coming up Chevrolet. It's the latest. Here's the car you can sell to more people, especially Ford and Plymouth-minded people, than ever before. But you must sell each and every Chevrolet Advantage, and there are many of them, from large things like engines to small things like the ignition key. Even the fractions of inches in extra seating dimensions are important to many prospects who are getting ready to trade their Fords and Plymouths on 1964 cars. Here's the 1964 Ford Galaxy 500 four-door sedan. All the new Fords are restyled and are heavier than previous models. In addition, Ford has body and suspension improvements. The Power Team lineup is basically the same as last year. And the Ford ignition switch is now at the right of the steering column. This is a convenience that Chevrolet owners have enjoyed for years. Yes, everything's coming up Chevrolet. Keep in mind that in 1963, Ford came up with crank-operated ventapanes, an enclosed steering column, and many other features that Chevrolet's had for years and years. This is the 1964 Plymouth Fury four-door sedan. It has been said that the grille area strongly resembles that of the 1961 and 1962 Chevrolets. Outside of a few exterior styling changes and minor body and chassis improvements, the new Plymouth is basically the same as the 1963 design. Now, we all know that the 1964 Chevrolet is distinctively styled. It's full of luxury and fashionable appointments. So sell your styling advantages, and then follow up with the other advantages Chevrolet has over Ford and Plymouth. The famous body by Fisher boasts many advantages over Ford and Plymouth bodies. To begin with, the first thing you notice is the Magic Mirror acrylic lacquer, the high gloss finish that resists chalking and fading. And it can be repaired by spotting in, a more economical method than is possible with the enamel used by Ford and Plymouth. Repairs to enamel require refinishing an entire section. In addition, enamel fades and has a rougher texture than Chevrolet's acrylic lacquer. There's extra durability and strength in the body by Fisher. For example, Chevrolet has a double-wall cowl, whereas Ford and Plymouth have single-wall cowls. The air-dried rocker panels of Chevrolet resist corrosion and contribute to longer-lasting body beauty. Ford and Plymouth rocker panels are not air-dried, making them vulnerable to corrosion. Chevrolet's steel front fender skirt protects the inner side of the fender against corrosion and damage from flying rocks and stones. Ford and Plymouth fenders lack this unique protective skirt. Chevrolet's windshield is considerably larger than Ford's and Plymouth's in four-door sedans. And Chevrolet's rear window is bigger than both Ford's and Plymouth's. All in all, Chevrolet has over 200 square inches more total glass than Ford and 592 square inches more than Plymouth. Extra glass area contributes to extra visibility and safer driving. Chevrolet's one key for all locks and the ignition is another important advantage. Ford and Plymouth owners must fumble with two keys, a nuisance at night and during inclement weather. Locking of the front doors from the outside with or without a key is another greatly appreciated Chevrolet advantage. Front doors of Ford and Plymouth cannot be locked from the outside without the key. Speaking of keys, Chevrolet has a 5-position ignition switch and keyless ignition operation. It's ideal on parking lots because the owner can lock the glove box in the trunk and take the key with him. Ford and Plymouth have 4-position ignition switches and lack the extra convenience of keyless ignition operation. Plymouth doesn't even identify its key positions. Here are other advantages inside the body by Fisher: carpeting, front and rear armrests, and foam-cushioned front and rear seats, standard equipment in every Chevrolet model. Plymouth offers these items as standard equipment only on their higher-priced models. Ford offers foam-cushioned rear seats on their higher-priced models only. Everything's coming up Chevrolet in seating room and driver comfort also. Chevrolet exceeds both Ford and Plymouth in many critical interior dimensions. When it comes to room, Chevrolet has space to spare in the huge trunk with its deep well. Chevrolet's trunk has nearly 3 cubic feet more space than Ford's and almost 2 cubic feet more than Plymouth's. That's comparing usable trunk space. In addition, Chevrolet has a lower trunk sill. It's about 5 inches closer to the ground than the sill of either Ford or Plymouth, giving the Chevrolet trunk the advantage of being easier to load and unload. Even though this film doesn't compare Chevrolet with Dodge Polara, Mercury Monterey, Pontiac Catalina, Buick LeSabre, or Oldsmobile Dynamic 88, Chevrolet has important advantages over these competitors. For the utmost in riding comfort, Chevrolet has a 119-inch wheelbase, coil spring at each wheel, and a 4-link rear suspension. Chevrolet's long wheelbase assures good cradling of passengers. The 4-link rear suspension controls rear axle movements and takes the braking and accelerating forces. Thus, the rear coil springs have one function, and that's to cushion the ride. Ford has a 119-inch wheelbase, coil springs at the front, and multi-leaf springs at the rear. Plymouth has a 116-inch wheelbase, torsion bars at the front, and multi-leaf springs at the rear. Generally, torsion bars are better suited for heavier vehicles like trucks. Multi-leaf springs at the rear of Ford and Plymouth must take up road shocks and the braking and accelerating forces as well. The springs can be overworked, resulting in a bouncy, choppy ride that's inferior to Chevrolet's. These springs can also develop a set or break as the mileage piles up. Compare 6-cylinder engines. The Chevrolet 6 has 7 main bearings for smoothness, hydraulic valve lifters for quietness, an automatic choke for starting ease, and a short 3.25-inch piston stroke for engine durability. Ford and Plymouth 6-cylinder engines have only 4 main bearings, mechanical valve lifters, and longer piston stroke. Plymouth's piston stroke is nearly 1 inch longer than Chevrolet's. Ford's is almost 1/2 inch longer. The longer the stroke, the shorter the engine life. What's more, Ford's 6 has a manual choke. Up to now, we've been accenting the across-the-board advantages Chevrolet has over Ford and Plymouth. Next, let's consider Chevrolet's specific advantages over each competitor. We'll begin with Ford. Chevrolet's bonded brake linings last longer than Ford's riveted linings because riveted types must be replaced once they wear down to the rivet heads. Furthermore, rivets can score Ford brake drums. And Chevrolet's total effective brake area is up to 8 square inches more than Ford's. Chevrolet's engine lineup includes 6 V8s with horsepower ratings of 195, 250, 300, 340, 400, and 425. Ford's lineup has 5 V8s with horsepower ratings of 195, 250, 300, 410, and 425, with a 110 horsepower gap between the 300 and 410. Chevrolet's 340 horsepower V8 with hydraulic valve lifters is available with either the 4-speed manual or Power Glide. Relative to engines, every Chevrolet power plant has a battery-saving Delcotron generator as standard equipment. Ford engines have old-fashioned conventional DC generators as standard. Add to these the benefits of the easier converting second seat in every Chevrolet station wagon. On Chevrolet, it's an easy 3-step operation. Simply release the safety latch, flip the backrest forward, and push down on the filler panel behind the seat. With Ford, you must pivot the seat cushion forward, revolve the cushion support bar, place the bar on the floor, then release the backrest safety latch and drop the backrest into position. Chevrolet's rearward-facing third seat in 3-seat wagons has a thick seat cushion and a thick backrest with ample springing. In addition, it converts easily and quickly into the cargo floor. But The forward-facing third seat of Ford's three-seat station wagon has thin pads for both the seat cushion and backrest. There are no cushion or backrest springs, and the pads must be removed before the seat can be converted, leaving the pads to clutter up the cargo area. From front to rear, inside and out, in sedans or wagons, Chevrolet has the advantages over Ford. When it comes to your other competition, Chevrolet also has advantages over Plymouth in specific areas that vary from those Chevrolet has over Ford. For example, Chevrolet's parallel action wipers clear more vital road viewing area. Plymouth's overlapping wipers leave an uncleared area in the center of the windshield. Chevrolet's crank-operated ventipanes can be opened quickly and easily and adjusted precisely for desired ventilation. The push-pull ventipanes of Plymouth are difficult to adjust and can be rough on fingernails. Compare station wagons. To begin with, Chevrolet wagons have over 3 inches more rear opening height and over 5 inches more rear opening width than Plymouth wagons. In Chevrolet's three-seat station wagon, the footwell is spacious. But in Plymouth's three-seat wagon, the spare tire is stowed in the third seat footwell and restricts footroom. So Chevrolet has the advantages over Plymouth as emphatically as it has over Ford. And be sure to accent Chevrolet's higher resale because it's the car most in demand when new and also when used. No matter if you're selling Plymouth-minded or Ford-minded people, you can write up more sales because everything's coming up Chevrolet.
I think the Jim Handy guys phoned in the Plymouth comparison there at the end, but don't forget to subscribe for more. The next film will be a car review from back in the day. See what people really thought of these now classics when they were driving them brand new off the lot.